So I'm finally free to talk about visa stuff. It has been a pretty crazy week. I'm actually in Denmark right now in a park. It's the only free time I have to film, so we're doing it live. So let's get into this visa stuff. It was actually a lot easier than I thought it would be. As much as I thought it was going to be like an interview, it actually was kind of more like turn in some paperwork and good luck. The meeting only took about 45 minutes. The majority of that was actually just waiting. I think it's kind of funny how much I was stressing about it and how it actually turned out being very chill. But I feel a lot better now that it's over. The biggest stress was actually preparing documents. There are a lot of documents you have to prepare. I think I had over 50 pieces of paper that I turned in. I wound up deciding to apply for a sole proprietorship visa. Unfortunately, there are no freelance visas for people from the US. It's the closest thing to what I actually want to do. A freelance visa would have been way easier, but we're kind of screwed when it comes to that. So sole proprietorship, if you don't know, is looking to start a business in Norway. You don't have to have a business already. It's just you give them a business plan and you prove that you're a skilled worker. It kind of falls under the skilled worker category of visas. You can't just be looking for any type of work. You have to specifically explain what you do and why there's a market value for it and all of that. The application itself was huge. It was a lot of really simple questions, but it was just a lot of work preparing it. Stuff like your name, all of your personal numbers like passport and social security, what kind of work you do, what your education is, you know, the stuff that you would normally put on like a job application. All of that, plus a little bit more detail on what services you offer for clients and things like that. So that's like the main application, and then when you turn that in, it asks you to pick a date for your meeting, and then you schedule that, and it gives you a whole bunch more paperwork. It gives you a checklist of all the other items you need. It gives you this cover letter, which is just your signature and says that you filled out the application, a printed version of the application, a whole lot of random documents that they use for sorting. And then you have to prepare more documents on top of that application. You need your diploma if you had school. You need your work history, especially if you don't have a diploma. You have to have a detailed list of work history, where you worked, how long, who your employer was, what you did, same stuff that you would put on a resume, but maybe a little bit more in detail. If you had any training or what qualifications you have with that particular skill. Then you have a CV. For those of us in the US, we don't use CVs, same as a resume, just longer. And then because I was doing a sole proprietorship, I had to do a couple extra paperwork things. The main thing was explaining a business plan and like assessing the market. In addition to that, you also have to explain your budget. I don't know how much they look into it, and I'm a little worried about that part because I'm worried they're looking for funding, and I just kind of wrote all of my savings as my business funding. So like, I don't know if they check up on that or if all of my savings is even enough. I added my rent costs in there, and then I estimated as if all of the projects I'm currently working on were finishing up soon, so I may have smudged the numbers just a little bit, but it was a projection, so I think it's fine. In addition, they wanted you to have contracts or letters of intent with businesses that you either already work with or people that you plan to work with. So I managed to bring in 4 contracts that were already signed, so I think that's a good sign at the very least. And then the biggest issue out of paperwork for me was they need you to prove that you have somewhere to live, and since I rent, it just isn't possible for me to say that I'm going to live there unless I get them to make up a contract, and I feel like that's really sketchy with people you don't really know. So I have some friends who own places here, and they were super kind and said that I would be able to live there for free. I'm not actually going to live there, but I could theoretically. The point is, I can prove on paper that I won't be homeless, so that's nice. And I think that's really all they want out of it. And then to top it all off, you had to scan your passport, all the stamps, especially stamps for me because that is my proof of visa. Since I'm using a tourist visa right now, there isn't really a physical visa for me to have. And then you had to prepare visa-sized portraits of yourself. So actually there's really nice thing here. At a lot of the train stations, they just have photo booths for visas specifically. You just go to the train station, find the photo booth, pay about $10 US, 100 kroner, I think. And they give you 4 chances. If you don't like any of them, you get 4 more chances, and you have to pick some of those photos. They all look like mugshots anyway, but it's really convenient because then you don't have to go to a post office and like have an appointment with somebody else who takes it like you do in the States. And then the time leading up to the meeting itself, I was freaking out about just really ridiculous things like looking Norwegian enough. I don't look Norwegian at all. I definitely stick out, but I was trying to play up the I could completely blend in here summer if you let me stay. I bought a big sweater, plain, stripy, covers all my tattoos. Sweaters are very Norwegian in general, so I think that would work. I was like freaking out about my hair because it's so kind of crazy, so I'm like, which side do I part it on? Which one's gonna look less crazy? And like just mannerism stuff, because I thought it was going to be like an interview. I was really worried about like, are they gonna be worried that I don't speak enough Norwegian? Something even as ridiculous as like, everyone here says, yeah. Like, how many times can I throw that in? That's so unnecessary. I don't think they're actually looking for like character flaws. To talk a bit more about like what the actual process is, there's a big center in Oslo for foreign workers, and it's not super clear where you're supposed to wait. It looks like they call all the desks the same spot, but they actually call for visa applications in a separate area, so I was in the wrong waiting room. So I finally found the right place to sit, and then I was waiting there, and then it was like 15 minutes late, and I'm like, oh my god, I missed my thing because I was sitting in the wrong section. Right when I was thinking about who to start asking questions to, they called my name, and the whole time I had been freaking out about staples. I had stapled a bunch of them at the library when I printed it. I had to print things last minute and change pages, so then I had torn out some of the staples, and then I didn't have a stapler, and I'm like, oh my god, some of them are stapled and some of them aren't. It looks super unprofessional, and I'm like, where do I find a stapler? And there is no stapler. I found one paper clip, so I had paper clipped one thing and the rest were stapled, and some of them were just like folded together, and it looked really messy, and I apologized for it, and then they were just like, oh, we're ripping them all out anyway, it doesn't matter. And I had expected a whole lot of questions being asked because I actually wrote a different address than the one I wound up using as my proof of residence. So I figured I'd have to really explain myself, and they didn't even ask about it. I really expected more of an interview type thing, and it was just kind of, well, all the paperwork's here. You'll find out in 4 weeks. So I actually won't find anything out until the end of October. So I have to kind of plan my life around that. I have zero idea what happens with the rest of my life after mid-November. So that's kind of entertaining in a weird, my life is a mess kind of way. And it could be way worse. I have some friends who are waiting for visa answers, and they have to wait 5 months, so they can't leave the country, otherwise they can't come back in. So 4 weeks is pretty reasonable compared to what could have happened. Overall, I'm not actually as worried as I thought I would be. The more I think about if it doesn't work, the more I'm really kind of okay with that. As much as it'll be kind of a mess having to organize when I have visas and when I don't, I'm kind of okay with just wandering around aimlessly for a long time. With my work, I can really be wherever I want to, and that's the beauty of being able to be nomadic, and I think it would be nice to take advantage of that as much as possible. Well, that's all the information I have about the visa process. If you have specific questions, you can ask me, but until I have an answer, I really have no idea how well I actually managed it. So I will keep you all updated when I find out in the end of this month, and I'm gonna go enjoy Denmark.